This information you are about to hear and perhaps view, these are not necessarily the thoughts or the ideas of Gary C.Clement or the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast. We are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the parties this story is about or was interviewed for. Parts of this content may not be owned by or the property of the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, G2 Network Media, or any other company we are affiliated with, and this information is strictly the opinion of those being interviewed. This content is for information purposes only, and although we may make reference to various news stories, we share our own independent beliefs about the content and provide our own opinions. Please enjoy the information. Welcome to this edition of Hard News, hosted by Gary C. Clement. Just when will it all end? Another innocent person faces the consequences of another man's pain, and in many cases his fear. Gun violence should not be the only solution. In the wake of this gun violence epidemic in America, we've decided to release a series of exclusive episodes that allow us to interview guests about guns and violence in our communities. Regardless of your skin color, financial status, zip code, or your religious beliefs, gun violence is all around us. Not all of us share these views or have these strong opinions where conversations about guns, drugs, our youth, and their shortcomings are seen in a positive light. And therefore, it's important to talk about truth, about the good and the bad of our society. We welcome your thoughts and your concerns. In this episode, there are two stories in the news that currently have our attention. Number one, Ralph Yarrow, a 16-year-old kid who went to pick up his younger brothers and rang the doorbell of a gentleman. The man shot through the door to shoot him in the head, and as he went down, he shot him again in the chest. Earl was able to get up and make it to another house to call for help. What would you do in a situation like this? Number two, 32 people hurt, several shot, and 4 people dead at a birthday party of a 16-year-old. What are your thoughts? What are your concerns? Today with me, I have a longtime friend of mine who shares his thoughts and concerns. Welcome, my friend, Mr. Connie McKichen of Yardley, Pennsylvania. How are you?
I'm fine, Gary.
So what are your thoughts about this 60-year-old kid getting shot, just initially just ringing a doorbell and somebody just shoots him? How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think anyone can feel good about these kinds of things unless you are someone who have an extreme racial point of view about general society. The 84-year-old man, I think this was in Missouri, am I correct?
That's Kansas City, Missouri.
Obviously had a preconceived notion about people of color. So therefore he comes to the door with an aggressive response and shot someone through the door. He didn't even open the door. So that is a difficult thing to accept in any part of the country or any part of the world, to be honest. So I would say in terms of the 84-year-old gentleman, I don't know if he was deranged. I don't know what was going on in his head, but we can safely assume that he was not all there. You don't shoot people through your door, your glass door, just because he's of African American descent. And I don't think he would have shot his neighbor, who may happen to have been Caucasian. But this question begs for a bigger answer as to what kind of country are we living in.
Mm-hmm.
What our values are. When you have people going to a rally for Donald Trump carrying AR-15s and handguns and rifles as a demonstration that they support Trump, that message go across the countries. And I have to get into this in a way that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Whether this guy was a follower of Trump, I don't know. But the sentiment in the country appears to be let's go radical. Rational thoughts are not there anymore. You got Republican people and who have a very radical idea about the rest of society. You got this girl, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Mm-hmm.
She's not only stupid, but she's being backed by the Republican Party. Not all of the Republicans. Can't blame it on all of them. But she's being backed by the Republican MAGA portion of the party.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking this talk. People are listening to her because she's in the Congress. But people in the world are also listening to her. Europe, China, Russia, everybody is listening to her because her message is being broadcast across the world from what this country had claimed to be a democracy for those who live here, and that we're supposed to be the champion of democracy worldwide. How can you be champion when you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other people of the Republican Party talking violence?
Mm-hmm.
But yet we can arm ourselves and go to Vietnam. U.S. soldiers died in the Vietnam War. For what?
Mm-hmm.
And they died of all colors and hues. They made movies about how the war was fought in Vietnam. They brought it back and put it on the television set. And still you got a Marjorie Taylor Greene. And still you got other Republicans thinking that they can say whatever they want to say and be right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We have to deal with this. Our young people are going to have to deal with this. One good thing about America, you can be an extremist and say what you want to say. Can't take that from them because that's guaranteed to American citizens. But something has to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Something has to happen.
Okay. We'll come back to this particular issue, but there's also a second issue where there are 4 dead in Alabama, 32 hurt for a birthday party for a 16-year-old girl. Her brother gets shot and killed at her birthday party. What are your reactions to this story?
Gun violence appears to be something that infiltrate everyone who listens to the news, reads the newspaper. And when people get into a tight jam or have to respond to something that they may be confronted with at a birthday party, who goes to a birthday party with a gun that's at 16 years old?
Mm-hmm.
We know it happens, and it's happening. Again, it goes back to the country, the life that we are leading in this country now. I can say a lot about this democracy that other people don't understand because they don't live here in this democracy.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about how great we are and then commit our fighting forces to Vietnam, to Afghanistan, and other ground wars we've been involved with. When you fight a war, you're teaching your citizenry war. Your children, you're teaching them war.
Mm-hmm.
Until Joe Biden got into office, he immediately pulled the troops out of, I think it was Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been in the government long enough, 40 years, to know that war solved no problems. And I believe it was Eisenhower said, keep an eye on the military industrial complex because they will keep you in war.
Okay.
Eisenhower said that at the end of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in the Vietnam conflict, at least three conflicts since that statement was made. Unless America changed its ways, home bombs, for instance, we could have a civil war in this country every day, based on the way the people are thinking and talking in certain sections of the country.
Mm-hmm.
That could happen. I don't talk races. I talk facts.
Mm-hmm.
There are a bunch of people in this country. Now we can understand how the Civil War took place. That mindset from the Civil War to now still exists. Still exists in this country.
Right. So when it comes to dealing with the NRA, what do we need to do? What do our legislatures need to do in regards to being able to, how could you say, being able to get rid of this gun problem? What do we need to do internally, externally? How do we handle this?
The NRA is a money-making business. And the NRA gives money to senators and congressmen. And if you go and kill a school full of children, the NRA is not going to be sanctioned for that. The Congress is never going to change their minds about the NRA because that's where their money comes from. The money that they use to gain elections, to have a seat, come from the NRA. Everybody knows it. No one's going to speak against the NRA because the money that they make from selling guns after killing babies, they're not going to stop doing that. They're going to do that forever.
Okay. And as far as all these guns and stuff that are hitting the streets, and kids as young as 16 years old, they can't go to a store and actually put down a driver's license and, put the money down and get a gun. The guns are coming from somewhere.
People are making money from buying guns and selling them to kids in the neighborhood. I think when they find out who does those kind of things, they should be given a max, life in prison without any chance of parole.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will that at least draw some attention to the problem. The Congress is made up of people who live across this country,
mm-hmm.
know what guns are doing to children and to innocent bystanders, but yet it's supposed to be the greatest body of politics in the world, cannot make a decision about prohibiting guns in our society. Now, I've been in Europe, I've been in a lot of places in the world. They call them the bobbies. The bobbies who are like police officers. They don't wear guns. They don't walk around around England with guns on their hips. There are plenty of countries that control their police department and the citizenry without having guns on their hips. We are what we are in this country. In 1865 and 1700, people walked around with guns on their hips, guns in their arms. And here it is 2023, people are still riding around with a gun rack in the back of their truck window.
Mm-hmm.
With guns on their hips in certain states that you can carry a gun in a holster.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense.
We really do appreciate our guest who participated in this episode, and we hope you learned something that will bless your day and your life. For all who are interested in learning more about the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, please visit www.amazon.com, and order my book, The Gary Clement Radio Show, When Strong Afro-American Men and Women Stand Up. It covers everything about us and features a variety of Afro-American personalities who speak out about the importance of education and literacy in the Black community. Well, we thank you for tuning into our podcast. Please send us your email address so we can contact you when we have new releases and new episodes and new projects as well. You can reach us at gccpresents@yahoo.com. And also, if you're interested in submitting any materials or want to get in touch with us, please do so by simply sending an email to gccpresents@yahoo.com. That's G as in Gary, C as in Charlie, C as in Charlie, presents@yahoo.com. So until next time, do take care. And this is a G-Tube Network Media production.